comment,
and subscribe for more content.
Where's the notification bell?
It's to the right of you.
Oh.
Ooh, what's up, guys? Welcome to this edition of a Funko Popcast. I am DK Wrestler.
And I'm MD Shaddy.
And in today's podcast, it is one of our other yearly traditions here on the pod, besides obviously the best and worst that we did a couple of weeks ago. It is the top 50 Funko Pops of 2022. That's right, the top 50 list we do every single year that we've been doing since I believe 2019. And one big thing that makes this podcast so special this year compared to the last few years we've been doing this is that this podcast specifically will be a two-part podcast. So the podcast you're currently listening to right now will have number 50 all the way up until number 26 for the bottom half of the list, while tomorrow on the pod, you guys will be listening to essentially the top half of the list, number 25 all the way until number 1, with some honorable mentions, of course. And how we figure out each of the pops for this list, obviously we have to agree on the 50 pops that are going to be on this list. And then we have 3 different categories of overall hype, detail, and personal reaction. We get those numbers figured out, calculated all, and then of course it all leads down to the overall score, which is how each of these pops are placed on this list, which if you guys really want to know how everything is calculated, it will be in the description below. It's a lot to discuss about, but without further ado, MD, are you ready for the top 50 Funko Pops of 2022?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like Funko really brought their A game this year with the amount of different things that we've seen pop-wise with like the deluxe moments and all this different crazy stuff. So there's going to be a lot of really awesome pops on this list.
And I should mention also for this that I will let MD discuss about his opinions of the pops, and then if I have anything to add to it, I will. So without further ado, let's kick off with number 50 on this list. This is number 856 in the Pop Games lineup. From Pokemon, it is Lucario. Lucario was just a simple common pop with an overall hype of 6.3, detail of 6.2, which is actually the lowest rating for a detail rating on this list. Personal reaction of 6.8 with the overall score of 6.47 out of 10.
Lucario, this is a really cool pop, and it turned out a lot better than I expected when you think of Lucario as a pop. I mean, what a fan favorite Pokemon. Definitely a lot of people's favorite Pokemon. Not my favorite, and that's why I'm a little hesitant on this one, because I want to see a lot more of the original 151 before we get other generation Pokemon. But because this is a fan favorite and the pop ended up looking really good when you have those dark black eyes over the lighter black/gray for the face, overall this turned out really good, and the fighting pose is awesome as well. So you can't really go wrong with Pokemon pops, especially when it is a character like Lucario.
All right, moving on to number 49. It is number 864 in the Pop Games lineup. Also from Pokemon, it is Lapras. Now, this is the normal 4-inch common pop, which had an overall hype rating of 5.7, detail of 6.4, with a personal reaction rating of 7.3, giving it an overall score of 6.47, the same score as Lucario, except it had a higher detail and personal reaction rating, therefore making it one spot higher than Lucario. Are you surprised that the Pokemon pops here are the bottom 2 of this list?
Honestly, not really. I'm not surprised that they made the list because these are 2 great pops, but I feel like we've seen a lot of hype when it comes to Pokemon pops in previous years. And now we're getting some Pokemon that might not be as wanted as some others, but Lapras is a great one. I mean, this is really cool. I kind of do wish this was a 6-inch or maybe even a 10-inch pop exclusively to 10-inch and not even have the normal size, because obviously Lapras is a big enough Pokemon where Ash Ketchum can obviously ride on him or whoever it may be. But overall, this is awesome. And like I said, I want to see some of the 151, and this is exactly that.
Coming in at number 48, It is number 1253 in the pop television lineup. From Stranger Things, it is Hopper. Now, this Hopper was a Funko Shop exclusive with an overall hype of 4.6, detail of 7.8, and personal reaction of 8.8, giving it an overall score of 7.07.
Yeah, this is a pretty awesome pop. I mean, what a moment in Stranger Things. Maybe might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think maybe the best like action battle scene that has been in Stranger Things was where this pop is coming from, and I think that they captured it very well. You have the flamethrower, what may it be, and then obviously with Hopper's like battle damage going on where he has some blood, he's got some bruises. He does look like he's lost some weight in this pop too, which I think is awesome because that's exactly what happened. And overall, I couldn't see them doing this pop much better, but who knows? Maybe in a few years from now, we will see some even crazier pops than this.
Coming in at number 47 on this list, number 260 in the Pop Rocks lineup. From Five Finger Death Punch, it's Knucklehead. Now, once again, this was a common pop with an overall hype of 5.1, detail of 8.9, and personal reaction of 7.4, giving it an overall score of 7.13.
Yeah, Knucklehead. I mean, the detail going on with this pop is insane. There's so much going on, whether it's the Five Finger Death Punch logo on his face. I mean, you have those crazy eyes with the X's through them, the brass knuckles in his mouth, and not to mention just the head sculpt itself of the skull is really awesome. The body, there's quite a bit of detail going on with there too. Obviously, you have the decals on the shirt as well as the camo pants, and I mean, a lot going on. But this is really cool. I like the different mascot pop rocks that we've seen. Obviously, we have Knucklehead. We've seen Eddie as well as Ned, to mention a couple different ones from the Pop Rocks lineup. So I hope that we do continue to see more of these, whether it's the next year or even the year after that. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see another version of Knucklehead because this is such a detailed pop, and I'm sure it probably sold pretty well.
Coming in at number 46, it is number 1032 in the Pop Marvel lineup. From Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, it is the glow in the dark Dead Strange. Now, this was a Hot Topic exclusive, which had an overall hype of 4.9, detail of 9.3, and personal reaction of 7.6, giving it an overall score of 7.27.
This pop is crazy, and I'm surprised it landed where it did because I think it probably could have been a bit higher on this list just because of the detail alone, which is really, really insane. I mean, you have like battle damage on his face, which is a different color, which is crazy. So you can kind of see under the skin. The eyes, the way that they did that makes so much sense, and it's awesome. As well as the pose. I mean, you have that base. Generally, any pop that's on a base, you know you're about to get a banger pop because they position them so well as the whatever's going on. I haven't seen the movie, but I'll call them demons that are kind of coming out from his hands there. That is just unbelievable. This could easily be one of those deluxe pops that you don't want to spend too much money on, but thank God it's not and just a Hot Topic exclusive. And I mean, they threw in the glow in the dark, so that's awesome.
Coming in at number 45 on the list, it is number 107 from the WWE lineup, and it is the Chase Alexa Bliss. Now, this had an overall hype of 6.2, detail of 8.5, and personal reaction of 7.8, giving it an overall score of 7.5 out of 10.
This might be one of the craziest chase pops that we've ever seen. I mean, it's a completely different remolding from the common itself, whether it's the head or the body. They're both completely different, and it's relevant because it's like character driven with Alexa Bliss, where you have both versions with the common and the chase. And the chase is better because it's just such a crazy chase. There's so much detail going on, whether it be with the head mold, with the hair, or different things that are going on with her face. Such a cool pop from a really cool character that Alexa Bliss played.
Coming in at number 44 on this list, it is number 1197 in the Pop Disney lineup. From The Emperor's New Groove, it is Angel Kronk. Now, this was a WonderCon exclusive shared with the Funko Shop, in which it had an overall hype of 6.4, detail of 7.8, and personal reaction of 8.4, giving it an overall score of 7.53, 0.03 higher than the Chase Alexa Bliss.
Yeah, this pop's pretty sweet. I'm a huge mark for the Emperor's New Groove, so this is really sweet. I love how Funko did the devil and the angel, and the angel is sweet. So I am a little biased on this pop, but I do think it should make the list. So I feel like 44 is a really great place to put it because honestly, there's not too much going on with this pop, but I do think it is a great one.
Coming in at number 43 on this list, it is number 3 in the pop movie posters lineup from Jurassic Park. It is the Tyrannosaurus Rex and Velociraptor. This was a common movie posters, as we have only had obviously 3 of them. We have an overall hype of 7.6, detail of 7.6, and a personal reaction of 7.5, giving it an overall score of 7.57, 0.04 higher than the Angel Kronk.
Yeah, this pop's cool as well. And I didn't really realize the size of it until I saw it at our local Toys R Us, where it was behind the counter. And I was looking and I was like, wow, that is a massive box, which is so cool because you want those pops to be big. They are dinosaurs, obviously. And this could have been a lot worse. We could have just got a regular character like Dr. Ian Malcolm or something like that, or even just one of the dinosaurs. But we have two, and it's kind of like an action pose, which I think is really cool considering the Jurassic Park movie poster itself doesn't have a lot going on for it. So I think Funko did a really good job on a cover that is mostly just black.
Coming in at number 42, this is number 113 in the Pop Rides lineup. From Stranger Things, it is Argyle with the pizza van. Now, this was a Target exclusive, which had an overall hype of 4.4, which is actually the lowest rating for overall hype in this entire podcast. Detail rating of 9.0 and a personal reaction of 9.3, giving it an overall score of 7.57, which was the same score as the movie posters in number 43, except it had a much higher detail and personal reaction rating, thus making it higher on the list.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense for a pop like this. I mean, this has got to be one of the most hyped pops from Stranger Things, one of those pops that everyone wants to see after they watch the new season. Definitely a fan favorite character in Argyle, and the pizza van is awesome as well. We haven't seen a pop rides for Stranger Things, and this one just makes so much sense. I mean, we could have easily gotten a Hopper with his like cruiser when it comes to like season one, but I'm glad that they waited to give us our first really good pop rides for Stranger Things with Argyle with the pizza van, and I think they crushed it. The common pop itself is also really good, but I think that if you are a fan of Stranger Things and you don't want to get both, the pizza van's the way to go because you can't go wrong with a pop rides, and the way they executed this one is pretty much flawless.
Coming in at number 41 on this list, this is number 31 in the pop albums lineup. From Alice in Chains, it is Dirt, which features pops of Lane Staley, Jerry Cantrell, Mike Starr, and Sean Kinney, which this had an overall hype of 7.0, detail of 8.0, and personal reaction of 8.0, giving it an overall score of 7.67, 0.10 higher than the Argyle and the Jurassic Park movie posters.
One of the things that's so great about this deluxe albums is that the pops in this are fresh, and not only because they're not new molds, but I believe these are brand new pops. I think this is all that Alice in Chains has gotten. We haven't seen the singular pops. So that's really great when it comes to deluxe albums because it sucks when you just buy a brand new set of, let's say, 4 pops for a band and then they're thrown into a deluxe albums. You're like, I probably would have waited to get the deluxe albums. But with this, you can get this confidently and know, hey, like this is all that we have right now. So this is awesome. And honestly, the 4 pops that they added look really great. All 4 of them look so good. So yeah, I think it was well needed to get some Alice in Chains pops, and I'm really happy that it made the list.
So now that we are done with the bottom 10, I guess, of this list, are there any pops that you think personally should have been higher than pretty much between 41 and 50? I already know. I feel like maybe Alexa Bliss and the Dead Strange, I felt, should have made it a little bit higher, but I do see that a lot of these pops were a little bit low because of their overall hype ratings.
Yeah, I mean, the detail in those 2 pops, and those were the 2 that I was kind of thinking about as well, just because of detail alone. I mean, those are crazy pops. The Alexa Bliss is such a crazy chase. So I feel like if there was a top 50 chases of all time, that would be pretty high on the list. But this is what I believe to be one of the only chase pops on this list. So it's really cool to see that it's on there. I do think it should have been maybe a little bit higher, but yeah, definitely with the hype. I mean, there's only so many people that collect WWE pops, and I'm surprised with the Dead Strange because I feel like the hype should have been a lot bigger on that one. The movie, from what I've heard, was really good. So many people are fans of Marvel. I feel like most pop collectors do have Marvel pops in their collection. So that one I think is the biggest surprise so far.
All right, so now moving on to the next 10 from 40 to 31. Coming in at number 40, this is number 1158 in the pop animation lineup. From Demon Slayer, it is Enmu. So this was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive shared with Hot Topic, which had an overall hype rating of 8.1, detail of 8.6, and personal reaction of 6.5, which that is the lowest personal reaction rating of the entire list, giving it an overall score of 7.73 out of 10.
Yeah, this one kind of makes sense for where it's at because when you look at this pop, you go, wow, that's a great pop. At least I do. There's just something about it where you have the details with the face and those eyes, and you can kind of really tell the expression on this character's face. And the hair looks really good. There's a cool pose that isn't too dramatic, but it also gets the job done very, very well. But I understand why this is at this place because me and you don't really collect much anime pop. So it really does make sense to be here at number 40.
Speaking of anime, that actually happens in our number 39 also. Coming in at number 39, it is number 1149 in the pop animation lineup. From My Hero Academia, it is the chase version of Tomura Shigaraki. Now, this was a Entertainment Earth exclusive, which had an overall hype of 6.9, detail of 8.6, and personal reaction rating of 7.8, giving it an overall score of 7.77, 0.04 higher than Enmu.
See, and now this one makes sense because it's from an anime that me and you actually both enjoy. So the personal reaction does go up from that. And it's, again, another great chase. I mean, this pop looks sweet. There's so much detail going on with the forehead, under the hair. You have a mouth on this pop, which is great. And it really does show the expression on the face of Shigaraki. And the body itself looks really, really cool. I mean, you have these tattered clothes, which look great. There's not too much of a crazy pose going on, but I don't really think it's needed with a pop like this.
Coming in at number 38, it's number 4 in the pop game covers lineup. From Halo, it is Master Chief, which this pop was a GameStop exclusive and had an overall hype rating of 7.6, detail of 7.2, and personal reaction of 8.5, giving it an overall score of 7.77 out of 10, which is the same score as the Tomura Shigaraki, except it had a higher overall hype and personal reaction rating, therefore making it higher up on the list. And I do want to mention before MD states his opinion on this pop is that even though this was announced in 2021, it actually did not end up getting released until 2022, thus being eligible for this list, which is also going to be the same thing with another pop that you guys will hear in a little bit on this podcast.
Yeah, this is a wild pop. I love this pop so much. I would say it's probably in my top 50 favorite pops of maybe not all time, but my top 50 favorite pops that are in my collection currently. I mean, the pop itself, there's not a ton going on with it. We have seen Master Chief pops before, some maybe better than this one, even. But I feel like when we knew we were getting these different covers and game covers, Halo just makes so much sense. What a staple game for a lot of people's collections, especially if you are a fan of Xbox. And I think that this turned out very, very well. I mean, the pop itself matches the cover great. Yeah, I mean, just such an awesome pop that I have so much personal connection to, I guess you could say.
Coming in at number 37 on this list, it is number 521 in the pop Star Wars lineup. From the new Red Saber series, it is the glow-in-the-dark Savage Opress. Now, this was also a GameStop exclusive like the last pop we talked about, with an overall hype rating of 6.6, detail of 8.8, and personal reaction of 8.2, giving it an overall score of 7.87, 0.10 higher than the Master Chief and Tomura Shigaraki.
This pop is really cool. It's one of those pops that is kind of the outlier of this Red Saber series, which we've gotten a lot of different pops for a bunch of those characters. But Savage Press, this is pretty fresh, which is nice. And overall, it looks really cool. I mean, the details on this, considering the species of Savage Press, is just cool how they execute these pops where you have the detail on the face as well as you have the horns. And the pose itself is really cool. I'm glad that they didn't just go with a standard pose, considering these are deluxe pops.
Coming in at number 36 on this list, it is number 12 in the pop albums lineup. From Ozzy Osbourne, it is Diary of a Madman, in which this is just a simple common pop albums with an overall hype of 6.0, detail of 8.5, and personal reaction of 9.2, giving it an overall score of 7.9. 0.03 higher than the Savage Opress. And I should mention that this was the other pop that I actually just mentioned a bit ago that was also announced in 2021 as a part of the Popapalooza lineup, was supposed to be released in 2021. However, because of shipment delays due to the ongoing pandemic at the time, that this pop was not released until very early on in 2022. So that's how it's eligible for this.
It's definitely the overall hype that is killing this pop because I feel like a lot of people just aren't appreciating it. But me and DK obviously are. We've been huge fans of Ozzy pretty much our whole lives, from what I know. I know that I have grown up listening to Ozzy my whole entire life. So this is so cool. Diary of a Madman is an awesome album, and I think they executed this pop so well. I mean, just the face being gray and having the shadowing around the eyes, the blood, the pose, everything is great. If this was just a list of pops that me and DK discuss about or what we like about them, then I feel like this would definitely be in the top 10. And I kind of feel like it's getting robbed at 36, but at the same time, I'm not too surprised.
Coming in at number 35, this is number 1169 in the pop animation lineup. From Attack on Titan, it is Battle Levi, in which this pop was an Alliance Entertainment exclusive with an overall hype of 7.8, detail of 9.2, and personal reaction of 6.7, giving it an overall score of 7.9, the same score as the Diary of a Madman pop albums, except it had a higher overall hype and detail rating, thus making it at the number 35 spot.
Yeah, I mean, this pop has a ton of really cool detail, whether it's the blood pouring down the face, quite literally pouring down the face, or the pose, or the fact that you get a really awesome base, which isn't just fire or smoke, which we do see for a lot of different bases when it comes to Funko Pops, especially with anime, or it's like with the Dragon Ball Z Pops where you have like the energy base that they have. So it's really cool that we see a base that's a lot different from what we've seen. And there's a lot of detail going into it as well, where you have the kind of blood splattered throughout that base as well as coming off of his two weapons, which is awesome. This is just a great pop when it comes to detail. Unfortunately, I don't know a lot about Attack on Titan, but I mean, we've seen Attack on Titan pops for a long time, and they're clearly getting better.
Coming in at number 34 on this list, it is number 112 in the Pop Rides lineup. From Harry Potter, it is the Ron Weasley with Flying Car. Now, this was just a common Pop Rides with an overall hype of 7.5, detail of 8.1, and personal reaction of 8.2, giving it an overall score of 7.93 out of 10, 0.03 higher than the Battle Levi and Diary of a Madman pop albums.
In my opinion, this one makes a lot of sense for where it's sitting at 34 on this list. It might not be the craziest, most detailed pop ever, but it's from a really iconic scene from Harry Potter, and honestly, probably my favorite scene from Harry Potter ever. So I think this is really cool. And this is one that I would actually consider putting in my collection. And I don't even collect Harry Potter pop. So that says something about this pop.
Coming in at number 33 on this list, it is number 157 in the Pop Ad Icons lineup. From Lemonhead, it is, of course, the Scented Lemonhead. Now, this was a FunCon exclusive that was shared with the Funko shop, which had an overall hype of 8.2, detail of 7.5, and personal reaction of 8.4, giving it an overall score of 8.03, 0.10 higher than the Ron Weasley with flying car.
This is a pretty cool pop. We had gotten the soda of this character, and I feel like that turned out pretty well. And now we have the pop, which is really cool in a year that we didn't get a ton of really awesome ad icons, which is unfortunate because it is basically my favorite thing to collect when it comes to Funko. And I'm glad that we got the pop version after getting the soda because I think it turned out well. It makes so much sense to be scented. And this is a cool one. I think that FunCon 2 is a great spot for this to be announced. It just makes so much sense. And I really enjoy this. I like the pose, and it's a little bit fresh because you're having this ad icon that doesn't need too much detail, but they do give the detail of adding the blue eyes with the blue hair and all that. I think that just overall, this pop turned out well. I think it might be a little bit high on this list, though.
Coming in at number 32 on this list, it is number 1096 in the pop animation lineup. From Yu-Gi-Oh! It is the 6-inch Black Luster Soldier. Now, this was a Target Con exclusive from this year, which had an overall hype of 6.5, detail of 8.9, and personal reaction of 9.2, giving it an overall score of 8.2.
This is awesome. And me and DK were both so pumped when this got announced. We both collect the Yu-Gi-Oh lineup. Yu-Gi-Oh is another one of those things that's been in my life basically my whole life. So it's really cool to see Yu-Gi-Oh pops, especially when they are some of those like original OG Yu-Gi-Oh dual monsters slash characters. Always great to see. I'm loving that Funko is still pumping out Yu-Gi-Oh pops at a pretty good rate. I like how we get some every once in a while, which I think is good. So it doesn't, we don't just get an abundance of Yu-Gi-Oh! And then we don't really see any after that. So this is cool. I'm not a huge fan that it is 6-inch. It makes sense. I mean, Black Luster Soldier is a tall character, but I'm just not huge on the 6-inch boxes, especially when you compare the size of this compared to, let's say, the Exodia pop. So I feel like it's kind of fallen into the right spot on this list.
Coming in at number 31 on this list, it is number 284 in the Pop Rides lineup. From WWE, it is the Eddie Guerrero with Lowrider. Now, this was a GameStop exclusive with an overall hype of 6.9, detail of 8.7, and personal reaction of 9.2, giving it an overall score of 8.27, 0.07 higher than the Black Luster Soldier.
This is wicked, and I feel like it is kind of a pioneer pop. I mean, you have Eddie with the Lowrider, which is so cool, which I believe is the first pop rides for the WWE lineup, and that opens this place where you can have so many different pops that come out, whether it be Undertaker on his bike, you can have JBL with his limousine, you can have the milk truck. There's so many things that could be done now that we're getting pop rides for WWE. And I think that this is an amazing one. I mean, when you think of Eddie, you think of the lowrider. What a cool pop. The pose is great. I love the attire that they went with this. I think that that's such an iconic attire for Eddie Guerrero. And overall, this is such a cool pop. So happy that I have this in the collection.
All right, so now that we're basically done with this 10 section of Funko Pops, are there any pops you feel that either should have been higher up on this list, but possibly near like that top half of this bottom half of the list? And is there any pops that should be lower? Because there's definitely some pops I can see here that should have been a little bit higher. Example being, I think the Battle Levi could have been a little bit higher, but not too much higher. And then especially, yeah, Diary of a Madman getting a little bit robbed. And then I think even like pops like Scented Lemonhead and Ron with the flying car could have been a little bit lower on this list.
Yeah, I think you summed that up exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. The Scented Lemonhead and the Ron Weasley probably could have been lower. And then mostly the Diary of a Madman, I feel like definitely should have been a lot higher on this list. But there's a lot of great pops to come still, especially considering this is just the first part of this two-part pod.
All right, so now moving on to, I guess you would call it the top 5 of this portion of the list. Coming in at number 30, this is number 159 in the Pop Ad Icons lineup. From Coca-Cola, it's the Coca-Cola Santa. Now, this had an overall hype of 7.4, detail of 8.8, and personal reaction of 8.7, giving it an overall score of 8.3, 0.03 higher than the Eddie Guerrero with Lowrider Pop Rides.
Yeah, this pop is sweet. I mean, I love myself some good ad icons, and I love when there's ad icons that I don't think about that actually be made into Funko Pop form. And it makes me kind of feel stupid, but at the same time, so happy to get the Coca-Cola Santa. I mean, so iconic, especially around the holiday season, to see the commercials with the Coca-Cola Santa. And I think that they executed this pop very, very well. Obviously, we don't see a ton of actual Santa pops. We do see, like, let's say Jack Skellington as Santa or other people with a Santa hat on. So it's cool to see an actual Santa, quote unquote. And he has the Coca-Cola bottle, which has the ribbon on it, which is so awesome. This is a great pop that I still need to add to my collection.
Coming in at number 29 on this list, it is number 290 in the Pop Rides lineup. Just realizing now that we added a lot of Pop Rides to this list. From Thor Love and Thunder, it is the Goat Boat, which this is a simple common Pop Rides with an overall hype of 6.8, detail of 9.7, and personal reaction of 8.5, giving it an overall score of 8.33 out of 10, 0.03 higher than the Coca-Cola Santa Claus.
Yeah, we did add quite a few pop rides on this list, but it makes sense when Funko is giving us stuff like this with the Goat Boat. This is just an unreal pop. I mean, there's so many things going on with this. You have the ride itself, which has quite a bit of really cool detail. You have that Thor pop, which looks really good. I mean, his hair is kind of blowing in the wind as well as his cape, and the pose is pretty decent on that as well, which sometimes with some pop rides, especially back in the day, you just have your normal pop that's just kind of sitting on the ride and not really doing anything. And then you have the goats in the front, which looks so cool. There's a lot of detail going on with there, especially with the goat with the white fur having the tongue hanging out of the mouth. And then to top it off, there's actually a base with this pop rides, which you basically never see with Funko. So this might be one of the greatest pop rides that I've ever seen. I mean, there's just so much going on with this to the point where, though I don't really collect Marvel that much, I feel like I really want this in my collection. And I mean, just an amazing pop.
Coming in at number 28 on this list, it is number 16 in the Pop Albums lineup. From Iron Maiden, it is Power Slave. Now, this was a common Pop Albums with an overall hype rating of 8.0, detail of 8.9, and personal reaction of 8.2, giving it an overall score of 8.37 out of 10, 0.04 higher than the Goat Boat Pop Rides.
This pop is sweet. I mean, it's so cool. What an awesome cover to begin with. And then the way they executed this pop is so good. I mean, you got like three popified things there, which is awesome. I feel like it could have been better if they would have added the other two on the sides, but that might make the pop a little bit too big and cover up too much of the cover. And then it's just a big pop at that point. It's not really a cover when you can't see the cover in the background. So I understand why Funko did that. But overall, this thing looks awesome. I love the flames in the eyes of Eddie, and just the way that they executed this looks so sweet. I can't wait to find this somewhere in stores and add it to my collection.
Coming in at number 27 on this list, number 1258 in the Pop Movies lineup. From E.T. the Extraterrestrial, it is the glow in the dark E.T. with glowing heart. Now, this was a Target exclusive, and this is something that's never happened on this list before, and that is the overall hype, detail, and personal reaction rating all being the same rating, which was 8.4, therefore making the math super easy, and that the overall score was 8.4 out of 10, 0.03 higher than the Power Slave Pop Albums.
I'm so happy that we got this new wave of ET Pops. It showed us a lot of really awesome revamps in molding when it comes to different characters like Gertie and Elliot, but as well as getting some really sweet different versions of ET. And the glowing heart is one of the best ones. It's very simplistic, which I think is a good thing. It's glow in the dark, which is awesome, and it's super iconic. So I feel like this pop could enter a lot of people's collections, even if you don't collect, let's say, a whole lineup of ET, or you don't really collect, let's say, movie pops. I feel like this is just so iconic that a lot of people are going to want to have this. And yeah, the 8.4 thing is funny because I feel like this really is a pop that should be kind of listed at 8.4. It's nothing crazy, but it's also a really awesome pop. I mean, just so iconic, basically. So yeah, this is really good. I love the spot that this came at.
And now coming in at number 26, the last pop we're going to be discussing about on this list, and will end off this bottom half of the top 50 list. This is number 1251 in the pop television lineup. From Stranger Things, it is the 11 in the Rainbow Room Pop Deluxe. Now, this was a Target exclusive, which had an overall hype of 7.3, detail of 9.3, and personal reaction of 8.8, giving it an overall score of 8.47 out of 10, 0.07 higher than the Glowing Heart ET.
This one, score-wise, makes a lot of sense. I mean, 9.3 for detail. There's a lot of really cool detail going on with this. The personal reaction makes sense as well. Me and DK are both fans of Stranger Things, and I collect basically every single Stranger Things pop. And then you have the overall hype being at 7.3, and that makes sense as well because this pop got announced before we even seen this scene with the new season of Stranger Things. And now that a lot of us have seen it, I mean, this is just even better now that we know what's going on with this. We get more of a backstory with 11 and what's going to happen that we haven't seen in the previous seasons. Whereas now we know exactly what has happened mostly throughout her life and what she's done. And this is just so cool. I mean, when it first got announced, I was kind of like, I don't really know about this. So what's going on here? And now that I know, definitely one of my favorite Stranger Things pops.
All right, so before we end off this podcast with this, I guess, top 5 portion of this bottom half of the list, are there any pop that you feel should not have been this high and should have been a little bit lower? And do you think there are any pops here that possibly could have made the top 25 portion of this list and kind of got robbed? I think that Coca-Cola Santa should not have been number 30. I think it could have been like a way lower, like maybe late 30s, possibly at like number 40, possibly. But I'm pretty satisfied with any of the pops we just discussed about that were in the 20s. Maybe 11 in the Rainbow Room should have been in the top 25, in my opinion.
I mean, for the pops that we just discussed about, I mean, they're all pretty much right there in the middle because they are such great pops. The one that stands out to me, though, is the goat boat. I feel like there's just such a crazy amount of detail on there. I don't know why the hype wasn't bigger on this, though a lot of people weren't hyped for this movie. I feel like when you look at this pop, you go, wow, like, look what Funko's doing now. And honestly, I think this could have been in the top 15 even.
Yeah, I definitely forgot to mention, I was going to mention about the goat boat and how there is a significant amount of people that have actually considered this in their opinions like the best pop of 2022. So for it to not be in the top 25 was a little bit surprising. But yes, I think the overall hype really cost this, especially with not a lot of hype for the movie overall. But I mean, yeah, I don't know if you got anything to add.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's about it. I mean, so far these pops have been great. So the next 25 are going to be crazy considering they are basically our top 25 favorite pops of the year of 2022.
All right, guys. So that will conclude this part of the top 50 Funko Pops of 2022. And if you guys enjoyed what you had listened to so far, of course, definitely smash the like button on this podcast. Comment in the comment section below and let us know, do you think any of these pops should have been higher? Press the subscribe button for more content like this podcast and any other videos we do on this channel in the future. And press the little bell beside it to be notified of when that future content gets released, especially with tomorrow here on the channel being the top 25 portion of this top 50 list. And if you guys haven't yet, follow us on all of our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at A Funko Podcast. It'll be listed in the description below. But anyways, guys, thank you for listening to part 1 of the top 50 Funko Pops of 2022. And we hope to see you guys tomorrow for the top half of the list for part 2 of this podcast. 1, 2, 3, I'm out of here.
We make everything fresh here at Surfer Boy, except for our pineapple, which comes from a can. Peace in, peace out.